Welcome to the Paisans podcast. We're your hosts, the brothers from other mothers, Dante, Dave, and Sarc. Join us as we talk about current events, our wives, kids, or whatever else life is throwing at us this week. You're with the Paisans, you're with family. There's a guy who I've seen on YouTube, or maybe it was Facebook, but he kept showing up in my reels for a long time. I think it's called Beard Meets Food, meets ATS Food. And he's this British dude with this long beard and not like, just sort of doesn't look particularly big or whatever. I mean, the guy puts away what could be, I mean, I swear, I think he could eat an entire horse. It's unbelievable. He goes in and he does these things where you have to eat like, you know, huge platters of food. And I don't know where the guy puts it. And he's in good shape. He's like muscular. And he's like thin. And what he says is he only eats like when he's going to do one of those things, he eats nothing else that day. And sometimes like not for like a day before. But he doesn't go in absolutely starving either. Like he'll actually eat a little bit of something, you know, and he's doing different types of things. So in one taste, it's like a huge barbecue spread, you know, and it's all kinds of meats, and then it's potatoes and like, you know, mac and cheese and all that stuff. And then other times it's like huge trays full of meat, you know, like tons of meat. I don't know, man. That stuff is that's just not for me.
And you watch him eat it. You watch him struggle to get it down.
So usually he succeeds, but yeah, he sets himself up. And then usually what he does is he sort of speeds it up. So he'll like sort of get it started, and he's talking to the people around him. And then they all, you know, usually the people in the restaurant are like, oh, what are you doing? Because he's sitting there with a camera and he's got his whole setup going. And he's a real nice guy, you know. He's kind of charming with people, so people are, you know, oh, you'll never do it. He's like, all right, mate, you know, we'll see, blah blah blah. And then you watch, and it's sort of sped up. And so watching it sped up, there's something sort of fascinating about it. There's some going back to what we were saying. We want to watch people eat. I would have never thought, but I have to say, it's just a little bit that, especially when you watch it sped up, that you're like, good God, this guy is just taking bite after bite after bite, and he's chewing it. And it's interesting to hear the things they complain about. He's like, you know, you wouldn't think it, but one of the hardest things is that your jaw gets really tired. He's like, you get tired of chewing.
Sure.
Some of these meals is just so much chewing.
Oh, he just eats everything. Yeah, I guess. But we've sort of been fascinated about people eating for a while. I mean, what you're describing sounds very similar to what the guy used to do on Man vs. Food. If you ever watched that show.
I was just thinking the same thing.
Same concept.
Yeah, it's the same concept.
Is that guy
right?
still alive?
No, he's alive. He's
alive.
Yeah, no, he's alive.
He did not look well at the end.
At a certain point, run. Yeah, Dave's right. Not only did he stop doing the show, but he went on a huge diet. He lost a bunch of weight.
He probably
and then eventually, a couple years later, I imagine he had an NDA, and so I think once the NDA ran out, he started doing interviews, and he was saying like, yeah, it was like killing me. You know, I couldn't keep doing it. God. Some other guy hired on to do it. I think it might have lasted one season. After that, it just, you know, look, that's one of those shows. It's like interesting. It's a bit of a novelty, but I don't know that it's going to last.
Yeah.
Like how many years are you going to watch that? You know, it's so formulaic.
The host is not going to last. So we'll at least be prepared to have numerous hosts.
Part of it really is on the host. Like you kind of rely on the host to have some charm, because if they're like a boring person, it's like, who cares about this? But it's, you know, that guy was Adam, whatever his name was. He was pretty good. Like he had a good charm about him. Thank you. That's it. You know, so you're right, Dave. We have been watching guys eat for a while. Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. That's another one I have to say. And that show's lasted.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's like 20-something years that show's going. Right?
Yeah, think about what you said. You know, it's got the host. I mean, Guy Fieri is like kind of pop culture. I don't want to call him an icon, but I mean, he's everyone on the internet knows who he is. And he's not eating himself to death. He's just he's trying things at places. So it's a little more sustainable.
Yes.
In some cases, it's just a bite, right? A big bite, but that's all you really see.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. That show is not about him gorging. It's actually usually it's about the process of making whatever it is that they have. So it's like, here's some amazing, this is something really popular. How do they actually make it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's interesting, you know. And this guy doesn't seem to suffer much. And that, Mike, to your point, it makes a huge difference. Like if you're watching a guy and he's like, and you can see he's forcing himself, you're like, yeah, you know, But this guy's more like, nah, all right. Like he's even when there have been a couple times he gave up and he's like, I think I just need to stop. This is too much. Like he's pretty good about it. He doesn't really complain. I know, right? So I don't feel bad about watching him, right? I think it's Beard Meets Food. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Beard Meets Food.
Beard Meets Food. So you see that on Facebook, Don? You said.
I think he came up on Facebook, but I'm opening YouTube now. I'm going to do a quick search and see if I can find it.
Okay.
Beard Meets Food. Beard Meets Food. The toughest full English breakfast challenge I've done in years. I mean, the guy's got a great attitude. Sure. I'm looking at him here. I'm getting pulled in, right? Just sitting here. We're trying to record the podcast. And I'm like, I'll talk to you guys later on. I'm going to go watch this guy. I'm going to go watch this guy eat a huge English breakfast. No, man, he's good. Like something about him. He's got a bit of a charm to him, and so there's something about it. I enjoy watching him. Speaking of English food, because English breakfast is like toast, like beans and toast. Like English breakfast is not really what we consider breakfast. Typically, it's usually different. But
they're big.
But there's another
sausage, I think.
Blood sausage,
yeah, right? There's a channel or a feed that I've seen a bunch of times. I think it's called Jolly. And it's just two British dudes, and they come to the States and they try like American food. And they have this great attitude. Like they love it. They want to just like try. They're just fascinated by how different it is. The one guy he doesn't care if it's fast food, homemade food. He totally appreciates it, And so it's kind of interesting to watch them go, and they'll do things like they go to IHOP in one episode and they're like trying out IHOP. But then there's an episode where they go to this, they're in Texas and they try real barbecue at one of the like best places you can get barbecue. And it's so wonderful to see their reaction because they are just like, they're speechless. They're left speechless by how good it is. Oh yeah. They're so like flattering and complimentary about everything. And they just keep going like, how have we not thought to do this? Like, just look at how, they're like picking up ribs and brisket and they're just like, this is unbelievable. Like, this is like, we're not on the same planet. They're like, how have they done this with this food? And by the end, they're like, I really think this is probably the greatest meal I've ever had in my life. This is probably the best meal I've ever had in my life. Like,
they're like, actually, it's the same exact thing you guys make. It just has salt and pepper on it.
Pretty much.
This is actually,
right?
we brought all this over from England.
Yeah, it's just an English breakfast.
It's true, man. Some people they just cook bland. I'm gonna out somebody here. I'll do it quietly, but my daughter Adria, she loves to cook. No, she's a very good cook.
Oh, okay.
But she has such a sensitive palate. That like everything I make, everything, she's like, it's too spicy, it's too spicy, it's too spicy. So when she cooks and I eat, I'm like, it's like got no flavor to it, I get it's chicken in some kind of sauce, but what is it? I can't tell what the hell it's supposed to taste like. And then my other daughter's like me, where she's like a heat freak and she likes everything like crazy, crazy flavorful. Two of us, like we sit down, we're eating, we're looking at each other like, is it just me or you not? Is there like not tasted here?
As soon as you go for the hot sauce, is she like, you don't like it, do you?
No, but thank God she's not like sensitive about that, because she knows as soon as we put salt and everything on it, she's like, she realizes she's got just she's got a very sensitive palate. I mean, I try so hard to back off the spices and not make it too hot. Everything that I make, whatever I'm making, I never want to make it too hot. It just doesn't seem to matter. Every time she's just like, it's just still like kind of spicy to me.
Well, pepper could be spicy to her, right? Like, is that what it is?
Well, right.
Yeah.
Some people are just really sensitive to it.
God. I know that's like one of your favorite.
I love pepper and hot. Absolutely.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
In fact, I don't know this, but I heard that there's some kind of village in Italy. It might be in Sicily, or it might be near Napoli. I'm not sure. But I heard that there's some region or something, and they're like obsessed with pepper, like black pepper.
Really?
Like they put a lot of black pepper in everything. I don't know if that's something I can Google.
It's one of these blue zones too, I'll bet.
Right. Italy's got all the blue zones over there. Or a bunch of them, at least. Yeah, hard typer. I've been called a hard typer before. Yeah.
Same.
Oh,
yeah. I figured
funny you should say that. Somebody once told me that my typing sounded aggressive.
What?
Well, it's just like if you're typing
Who told you
fast
that?
and you just like that's what it is, really. That's what I think it is. It's just you're typing fast and you're just pushing. I don't know.
Well, we learned how to type on typewriters and word processors.
Yeah.
So
you had to push that
modern
damn
day,
thing, man.
You had to push, man. And you had to have your fingers elevated, and you had to, and so you had to hit with purpose, And I've always done that. I have had people say, like, my goodness, you type like, you're like, I'm like, that's how I learned to do it.
Right.
This, I don't know what to say. Yes. So I suppose, Dave, I am a hard typer.
That word processor, man, it was like you had to hit it hard or else you'd get these really light letters. Sometimes you have to do the same letter like 6 times,
That's right.
Running out.
That's right.
Yeah.
If you didn't hit it, if you didn't
Bash
register
it.
the hit, then you would, you had a typo, and like that was a problem, and they weren't sensitive the way that they are today. And I find it actually really gratifying. Like, I think it's just gratifying. In fact, sometimes when I use some of these keyboards, they're so light touch. I'm like, I don't like it.
Totally agree. Totally agree with that.
I don't know if you've ever seen our dad type, but he's still like this, just kind of like
that's my dad too.
It's funny, and he's like, I could go pretty fast, but I'm not as fast as you, obviously. But I still have to just use my 2 fingers.
I would mock it, but honestly, now, like on the phone, I need to talk to text. I talk to text and then I edit, because to type word, oh my God, it takes me forever.
Oh yeah. And
I know part of it is because I'm looking at the keyboard and I want to put my fingers on the full keyboard and type it out, because I know that if I had the keyboard in front of me, I go, I can really rip it through. It's like and I'm also, I don't know about you, Mike, but I don't know about you, Dave, if you're quite on this. I mean, because you're just a little younger than us, but I can't give up punctuation, even in text. Like, I really struggle to give up punctuation.
I'm the same way.
Like I put
even
in
with
commas.
The spacing, yeah.
Yes.
Is that OCD or is that just the way that we were brought up?
I mean, I think old habits die hard, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the same way, man.
Right? And my kids sometimes are like, Dad, you put in periods in it, like, they'll say ridiculous things like, it scares me. Why does it scare you? Well, I think you're mad. You think I'm mad because I put a period at the end of my sentence?
We need to
like,
talk.
Well, it's like sort of saying something. Yeah. They're like, well, I mean, in text, it sort of says something. It means something. I'm like, yeah, it means the sentence is over. That's what it means. They're like, no, it means more than that. You don't get it. I'm like, doesn't mean that to me.
It means you hate me. You hate my guts.
Exactly. It means you're disappointed with me and you wish I was never born.
I mean, to talk on that real quick. I mean, I came up in the instant messaging era, which I feel like was beyond you guys a little bit. I don't know if you guys did that at all, really. I mean, you guys had like your early age similar would be like beepers, I think, right? It's like a similar era of when I was growing up with instant messenger. And if you're writing just one message, it's like, if you don't write these long paragraphs, it's very easy for me still to not include the punctuation, to maybe sometimes not capitalize a letter unless it's, if I'm writing a longer text or something, or if I'm speaking to text, I'll add the punctuation. But if I'm sent, I might also say a lot of things to you in like 5 quick messages. I have the tendency to do that with text. Like, I'll put like 5 different sentences and 5 different messages, so I don't hit the punctuation really. Mm-hmm. So my texts kind of look differently. I guess I get to do a little of both. But
I can see how instant messenger and texting would encourage that type of writing, because I catch myself doing that too. Because a lot of times with, you spend the time to write all this message. Meantime, the other person sends these like responses, and now your message is like you're responding to something, multiple messages. You sort of learn there's this urgency to getting your thought out. Otherwise, the other person is going to send the conversation in a certain direction, type of thing.
Yes.
So I do get that. And I can't say I can't say I do literally every time, because every now and again I'm like, it's okay, let it go. Like, I won't use the period, but generally speaking, I'm still like punctuating, and like, I'm not using like slang or like incorrect. I'm still using like apostrophes, like all that stuff. I'm almost never use like solely emojis. I might say something and then add an emoji, but I'm never using emoji to communicate anything.
But in using dictation, isn't punctuation necessary? Because I would think if you're not, I mean, I know you have to say it like period, comma, exclamation.
Right.
But if you're not doing that, then it doesn't know. It's either a run-on sentence or it's deciding where to capitalize and where to put periods. Yes. I've seen that too.
I think it will put in punctuation if you like adjust your setting. It will put in the punctuation for you, but I think I've turned that off because it was putting in like periods every time I paused.
Yeah, right.
And it's
exactly.
Like, slow down. You know what I mean? So yeah, I do.
Like, I'm not that angry with my kids right
now.
Yeah.
I'm angry, but not that angry. I'm like 1 period angry, not 4 periods angry.
You see it at work too, or at least I see it at work. Like if you have younger people, they don't pay attention to it as much and sometimes kind of slip and use like messaging slang in like emails, like
in emails.
And, or like messages, like, and it's kind of interesting. I mean, it's almost because it's so second nature to, even starting with my generation, I think I would say my generation's even more comfortable with text message, email than even so much picking up the phone. It's like almost kind of split. And then these younger generations coming up are definitely more comfortable writing and texting, messaging, whatever it is. It's just the way they were brought up. And your generation, like when your generation goes on, it's like going to be like my generation is like the last bit that like lets it die. Because I kind of feel like we're also kind of comfortable. Some aren't. Some are still more comfortable to pick up a phone or call someone or like to do that. Whereas others can just communicate better via writing.
Yeah. My kids don't even use like text messaging anymore. They don't, or at least like the iMessaging, text messaging through cell phone numbers. They don't even use that anymore. They use Snapchat.
Yeah.
So that's basically their sole texting platform. I mean, they're like, because sometimes I'll ask them, do you have their cell number? Just call. It's like, I don't know where so-and-so is. They're not responding. It's like, no, I don't have their cell. I'm like, well, how do you texting them every day?
Snapchat. And
it's all through Snapchat. Yeah. So they don't even have any other contact information for their like best friends.
That's true.
That's wild.
My kids, I think, have cell phones and I think they do text back and forth with all their friends, but you're absolutely right, Mike. Like a lot of it is Snapchat. It's so weird too. Like talk about OCD. So it encourages you to like create streaks, right? So very quickly, Dave, I send you a snap and you get it. And then you like send me back a snap. And now we have a streak.
Right.
Now every day I need to send you a snap to keep our streak going. And you have to send me back a snap. Otherwise we lose our streak. And once the streak gets going, you can't lose the streak. So you got these kids logging on to go through, in some cases, dozens of snaps just to preserve streaks with people. And the pictures, they take a photo to like send a photo. And when I tell you it is literally just like whatever happens to be in front of them at that moment, that's what it is. So it's completely, it's like totally without nutrition, totally void of nutrition, so to speak. But they have to make that connection. It's like they've managed to convince you, to addict you to using that app at least once a day. And obviously it's way more than once a day for a lot of people because they have dozens of people that they have these streaks with. And I'm like, well, what do you keep the streaks with? We just don't want to lose our streak. Maintain the streak for the sake of maintaining a streak. Like that's what it is. It's so friggin' weird. It's so friggin' weird. And I could almost imagine if it was like, well, here's the challenge every day. It's like, I got to send them something interesting that happened in my day. Like it can't just be nothing. No, it's nothing. So then you're like, so what the heck? It's no effort. It takes no, it's so weird. It's so weird. Like when I had to write you a letter, it took for a long time for you to get the letter.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I had to put in the thought. And if I had to make a phone call to call you, I had to say, I want to talk to Mike. I want to talk to Dave. Call you. And then we have our interaction. This notion that I would send you a snap with no value whatsoever. Like I suppose at a minimum, it's saying to you, I thought of you today.
Right.
I don't.
But
Or
how
it's
do you
shallow.
judge? Yeah,
Bare minimum. Yeah,
exactly.
Super shallow.
Exactly. Like, how do
Puddle
you
shallow.
judge your friendship? How do you judge the quality of your friendships? It's like through your streaks. Are you actually spending physical time with these people?
Yeah.
Or are your best friends just those that you have the highest streaks with?
Mike, so many of them too. It's like people they don't even like. You know, like half of it nowadays too. It's like maintaining connections with people you don't even like.
That's why they get a BS picture of the ground or something. You know, and it
Yeah,
just says
yeah. I mean,
streak.
Yeah.
it's someday they'll look back and go, "My God, you know how much time I wasted on that damn app." You know, I mean, I could say the same thing about like my Atari 2600. So I guess it is what it is. Make of it.
Well, I think you have a good point with the fact that it's void of originality. I mean, everything's. I mean, they say with creativity, everything is inspired by everything else. So even if it's a blank piece of paper, but yes, to your point, there's something to being able to know where to start and start on your own, not have somebody else start for you. You know,
it's funny that you brought it to that, Mike, because I've been talking to my kids more and more lately. I mean, we're looking at some of these. Regardless of how you feel about some of the controversies that have gone on over the past couple of years about some of these Disney, for example, like the Disney live action remakes of The Little Mermaid, of Snow White, like what is going on with like nobody's coming up with new ideas? Broadway is all like, look at what's on Broadway right now. It's all like
Beetlejuice.
Yeah, it's all like 80s and 90s. It's all movies from like 40 years ago, repackaged. Back to the Future, the musical.
Right.
I mean, I am really confused. Nobody's writing. Okay, Hamilton was awesome, but it's just is like, are we really is the best we can do is just rehash existing IP anymore? Now I heard that they're making Wicked into a movie. Well, that's a play, which it's a play based on a rehashed story of the Oz stories.
Right. So we're just redoing the Wizard of Oz in a different form right now.
Basically.
Right. Redoing a redo of the Wizard of Oz, like redoing a redo of a redo. And those are just a few examples. Like if we sat here and we started thinking about it, we think about what's on Broadway, what's been on Broadway. Mean Girls. What's the other one? Wasn't Clueless? Maybe not Clueless.
Was it?
I'm not sure about
Legally
that.
Blonde or something like that, right?
Probably
Legally
Blonde.
Legally Blonde. Yep. I mean, there's just like example after example where it's just like, well, let's take a great movie that we really loved and let's turn it into a musical because I don't know. I suppose it's too risky to produce an original musical anymore.
Right.
Financially.
Right.
It's too financially risky.
You have a built-in audience on a lot of these things. So
Correct.
Ghostbusters are going to get all the people who love the original Ghostbusters from the 80s.
Right. That's the thinking.
And there's probably some truth to that, but they also have a possibility of really screwing it up and then not getting them back.
Or maybe knowing that they will. Or maybe knowing that they will and not giving a shit.
Well, that's part of what we end up talking about a lot is how they're rehashing this existing IP. And instead of, especially now with all this inclusivity stuff, it's like, let's take an existing IP, but change the sex of the character, of the main character or something. And it's like, or maybe just come up with a new character that has like a female spy or a female assassin. Like, why do we have to take existing IP and change what's there? Like, I'm not opposed to having like female heroes, for example. Aliens is one of my favorite movies. Ripley was like the hero of that movie. She's badass.
Mm-hmm.
Terminator 2, that movie kicked ass. And
original characters.
Linda Hamilton looked insane. Like she was amazing in that movie. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Like I got no issues with that. Like,
and an actual real story arc, right, with her character too, in some way.
God
right?
forbid.
I mean,
God forbid.
Have you guys ever seen the Book of Mormon?
No, I haven't.
So a couple of years ago, Danielle got us tickets for my birthday. That is a funny. I don't see a lot of Broadway musicals, but that was really good. It was really funny.
Yeah,
I was cracking up the whole time, just like
I can imagine.
Laughter. And
the
funny thing is you could see the parallels in the humor. I just saw it as a live action South Park episode, kind of. Similar characters, the similar styles, and they kind of embody that these actors. And that play has blown up at least two guys that I know of. Josh Gad was one of the leads on that when that first came out. And then I'm blanking on the other guy's name, but he's in a lot of shows right now. I think his name is like Michael Rambles or something like that. I'm blanking on his name. I don't know if that's right, but he's been in a bunch of like film and movies now too.
Oh, really?
So
okay,
yeah. If you ever get a chance to go on a Broadway play, try to convince your wives to go to that one because it's hilarious.
I'm surprised they haven't done what they did with Hamilton and create like a theatrical version of the Broadway performance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although I don't think like Disney Plus isn't going to do that. Not with that show.
Well, I guess it'd have to be Paramount or
HBO. Yeah. I mean, Netflix would take it too. They're going to do a live stream of a hot dog eating contest between Joey Chestnut and Kobayashi.
Is that right? Like not the Nathan's thing, like a separate?
This is separate. Yeah, it's on Labor Day.
Oh, okay.
So Netflix is just doing their own Nathan's hot dog eating contest, basically.
Yeah.
And they just grab Kobayashi instead, like the two guys who aren't going to do it this year.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I just read the thing about Joey Chestnut. So Kobayashi isn't doing it this year either?
I don't think Kobayashi's been doing it. I think he's been out of the game for a long time.
Oh, man. So they're bringing him out of retirement.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to be honest, I want to watch it.
That we know the name. Like, do we know Joey Chestnut's name? Like, nobody should know that guy's name.